Welcome. On today's program, is the customer always right? Kevin Shaw breaks down this age-old business mantra. We explore cases where customers push the limits. Or also we kind of wonder, are they doing it because they think businesses should always cater to their demands? If you water it, it will grow. Windreach Farm has a new work experience program for people with disabilities called Windsprout, and we learn all about it shortly on the show. I'll tell you though, the customer is always right tuning into our show.
This is Kelly and Company.
This is Reen Abdul-Majid joining us on the program today. And the other day, Niaz, we were talking about, well, you were seeing people going through the mall wearing sandals, and we got on the discussion of the salt, the sand, and that. You know, the question that people ask is, are you a winter person? Are you a summer person? Most people will say which one. Spring, fall, which one are you more likely? I always love fall just because it seems there's less on the ground like there is in the spring as things thaw out. Which one are you?
Cuter clothes too for the fall. I'm more of a summer person just because I like the heat. I even though I wear extra layers because I'm a hijabi, but it's always nicer. You could do more activities outside. It's just brighter days rather than the winter where you're just stuck at home and there's not much else to do. I mean, like for myself, I don't like going out in the cold. I dread it, in fact. But yeah, that's
Are
just
we
me.
blessed to have the 4 seasons? Would you rather live somewhere where that wasn't the case?
Honestly, every time the winter comes around, I'm like, "Ugh, I want to be somewhere hot. I want to be somewhere hot." Do you feel the same way though?
No, not really. I used to want to just see what it was like to be somewhere in January or December. Like I remember, you know, as a teenager, I thought, God, it'd be kind of cool to see what it was like to be somewhere in January where there wasn't snow. But I always used to get bothered watching TV shows because they took place in California or somewhere warm, and it just seemed weird when they had their Christmas episodes. But what I've always thought is spring, as much as people love it, they embrace it because that means summer's coming. It's ugly. I hate the smell of spring until it gets into late April, May, where we are in this part of Canada. Other than that, it gets, it's mucky.
Do you feel like it's because it's gloomy and
no,
and
just because
rainy?
it's uncovering a bunch of yuck and it stinks.
Right.
And after a while, there's like about 2 or 3 weeks, let's say 2 weeks, where all you smell is, stuff that's been left out. Mess.
Yeah, but you'll see in parking lots of like grocery stores of huge mountains of snow. And these days, because it's been sunny and the weather has been decent, a lot of the snow melted, but now it's like black. Before it was
because
all
it's
white.
piles of sand
It's
now, right?
It's like muddy.
Or
yeah,
salt.
it's really muddy.
Ew.
So
And then
it's mushy and you have to step over it. It's not cute. It's not.
When they make the big piles of snow and it melts and it leaves that, I don't even know how they really get rid of it. Like if they let it just leave it, it'll eventually blow away as it dries out. Or if actually somebody has to come along, pick that up. If they hire a landscaper that comes along and does all that stuff, I'm not really sure. Being blind, I just know I've tripped over them, navigating, and then okay, that stupid pile of yuck is somewhere here, and it's gone then. So. Fedora's off to those who have to do that, and really all the cleaning. I know they were talking outside in Toronto Harbor and off the beaches and things like that. They've got these neat things that bob in the water that can catch things up to, I think, 2 millimeters without them slipping through the meshing, and they can pick up garbage that way. And this thing bobs up and down and catches things that float over, and whoop, it gets trapped in it, goes down, comes up, whoop, and it moves it along. And they said this is some of the new ways they're keeping these beaches, these harbors clean. And they also noted that the mess is generally not made by the people who walk along, who spend time on the beach. It's not like it comes from other places. A lot of time from the storm drains, right? Cigarette butts and things like that get washed down and end up in the lake. So I kind of thought that was kind of neat because we need to make the efforts because we know they'll do what they can. Nice to see such an effort, but there's still going to be so much of it left, Nisreen. Just tons of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's pretty neat. But when it comes to my pet peeve here is when people don't take care of their driveway. I don't know why that bothers me.
Yep.
I don't know why it bothers me, but for example, my parents' neighbor, so they have a semi-detached house, right? So they have a connected garage, connected driveway, and my parents' neighbor, they don't shovel the snow. It's only our side that's shoveled. So what they do, they don't shovel in front of their house. So what they do is drive into my parents' driveway and then go into their driveway.
The nerve! That's some nerve, I'll tell you that.
Audacity.
And there's not much you can
why?
do because you can't block because you guys need to do it. You don't need to be getting out of your car, you know, coming over and move this kind of thing. It's one of those things that I find interesting too because, you know, if you've got to walk somewhere, I mean, main thoroughfares and stuff like that are dealt with the city. But if you have to go into a neighborhood, you can walk from snow covered to not, but the not or the snow covered isn't so much the problem as much as the ridges. When you get to a driveway and somebody's only done so, they don't round it off and you're walking and you trip over that. Have you ever like tripped and totally gone down because you're walking along? And you just haven't, as a blind person, low vision person, caught it.
Yes.
I mean, I haven't done it recently, but I'm sure in years gone by, I have really done a trip over and an awkward dance as I've tried to regain my balance. It's
hasn't
crazy.
been recent, but it happened a lot to me. Nowadays, I just get my husband to hold on to me and guide me through because a lot of the places is just not shoveled. It's not taken care of, and it's unfortunate. I remember we used to shovel our driveways all the time, and now it's just like they don't care.
Yeah, it used to be more fearful that somebody from the city would come along or a policeman and give you a ticket and say, come on, think about this. You got to It was just the thing to do to be courteous. Now it's just too much. And I understand for some people it's a lot. So you got to either hire some neighborhood child who, I'll do that for you. Give me $5. $5. I remember the days it was, that was at least 20 years ago. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly and Co AMI. That's on Instagram, also on Twitter. Lots of fun stuff at Kelly and Co AMI, please.
So one could argue that one of the best times to do a little housekeeping is during the winter months. And when we're already housebound, that's the best time. But it can become a bit overwhelming, especially if you're someone who likes to hold on to things. And here we have Frances Wong. Welcome back. You're going to give us some tips on decluttering this month. Tell us all about it.
Thank you. I just have to talk about the snow and the shoveling just because that was kind of funny. The thing that I hear most about is, I mean, people get so upset over this, but you know, imagine if you have shoveled out a spot, like a parking spot in front of your house or property, and then you go and then someone comes and takes it, right? That's the worst.
Yeah.
So that would be like almost worse than what your parents' neighbor is doing. But I think that sometimes people have had revenge stories where if they see a parked car that they know someone took their spot on purpose, they will go and bury that car around with snow so that they have to dig themselves out.
Honestly, I would do that. I really would do that. I'm a petty person, so I would take the opportunity and do it.
Did your parents ever send you out to do that, Niz? Did your parents ever say,
no, but I wanted to. It's
seal
the fact
them in.
that they just shoveled only their porch and like half of their driveway just to fit that car, and they have to drive around that huge pile of snow. Like, what's the point? Just shovel the whole thing. It's funny, but yeah.
Or people, Francis, who don't clean their car off and it all blows back on you, whether you're standing at a bus stop or you're driving and all of a sudden whoosh, you know, I can imagine that stuff's got to be just a terrible experience.
It's also scary because it's thick snow and it hardens, so if it smashes into your windshield, like anything can happen, so beware.
It's also illegal. You could get ticketed for that too.
Oh, sure, as you should.
Yes.
Like some people, you know, driving around with just a little bit of clearance in their front windshield, not even cleaning off their whole windshield. Very, very dangerous.
Yes. All right. So getting back to this, yes. So the snow is starting to melt and spring is around the corner. So this is definitely the time of year that is a great opportunity to kind of get rid of the old and welcome the new. And, flowers are starting to come out here on the West Coast. So definitely a time to good time to declutter. So, and we might not associate our physical surroundings with our mental health, but there is definitely an aspect to that. So that's why it's kind of tied in with this health and wellness talk. But what we want to look at is when we're removing unnecessary items, we can create a sense of order, and then that can create a more peaceful living space. And that is what a clinical social worker has said. And some of the benefits of this is, as you can imagine, it would be less stress and anxiety. And there's been a lot of research studies done over these, talking about clutter and how it affects us. When we are not looking at a mess in front of us, we can improve our mood. And if you bring in feng shui, we talk about flow, and having clutter is disrupting that flow. So to our brain, clutter represents unfinished business, and this lack of completeness can be highly stressful for some people. That makes sense to you, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I wonder sometimes, Frances, is it the cluttering itself or the feeling you accomplished something? Because so many of us sometimes feel like, geez, did I get anything done today? And I think both both definitely are a positive thing mentally.
You kind of feel productive
Yes,
too.
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is actually one of the benefits of decluttering. We also find that there's better concentration when there's clutter, that the brain has to work on multitasking. So when you remove that clutter, you can your mind can focus a little bit better. And there's also the benefit of more creativity. So the idea is that it's kind of the idea of, the larger your home, the more stuff you accumulate, just because you have that space there. So
Yes.
when there's space, things will come in to fill it. So, if you kind of declutter and have room and space, for at least for your brain, you can have room for new ideas to come through and then bring on that creativity. And going back to what you were saying, Kelly, when we're living in a neat living space, we can have that sense of good self-esteem, that we've got a sense of control and accomplishment, so that you can feel good about yourself. And, there's a lot of things that we cannot control. We think we can control, but at least we can control or manage our own home environment and the space around us. So that is definitely a bonus for our mental health and our just general health and wellness. Another benefit of decluttering is sleeping. The benefits of, when you have clothes and things lying around, it can be disorienting and negatively impact your ability to relax and get good quality sleep. So we know that when we have good sleep, we wake up in a better mood. We're just more energized. So that is also one of the benefits of decluttering.
Okay. I'm curious about the distraction too, because, like you say, you can be more creative. I wonder, as a blind person, I ask this, and I'm trying to enlighten it to myself, but as a blind person, I wonder if people see stuff. If you're thinking, maybe you work from home and you look over at stuff, and that kind of keeps you from being able to focus on the task at hand, or being creative. I don't know if either of you ladies can feel that way, just like that spot. If there's a open spot, I got to fill that with something. I'm sure some people get that as well.
I feel like that's me. Even though I like my place to be simple and not too cluttered, but if I see a spot, like beside the couch, there's like an empty spot, maybe I could fit a plant, and I'll go to HomeSense just for the fun of it, and there you go. And that's my problem. In the beginning, when I first got the apartment, I felt like, it was all basic, barely had anything in it, but I keep looking over at places that I could fit stuff in. I think it's more of a shopping problem than a clutter problem.
That's an excuse, Frances. See? She identifies her excuse for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's looking a little empty there. So yes, what can I do to fill it?
I have to spend money.
I think for myself, I even I mean, I think when I close my eyes, I can visualize my space. So definitely know where things are. But yes, I think less clutter is better. And that kind of ties in back to last month's talk about hygge and, having that cozy space and not having so much stuff. Not necessarily minimalism, but just having less things so that it's just creates a more peaceful environment for us.
Right. For me, I think I've got something to do. If I check over here, I've got some bins here in the office space that I've got to do something with them, but they're here and I've got to do something. So I find that sometimes, I got to do something about that. Oh, like you said about putting clothes away or whatever, same thing. Like you think, I got to get those put away. I got to put those away. So I think, Frances, for me, that is probably more what would distract me, because I think, I can't see the notice or say, oh, that looks lopsided, or, oh my gosh, does that look like a mess, in the same way. I convince myself, oh, that must look like a mess. It could be organized chaos or just nicely organized, but there's lots of stuff there. Is that too cluttered? And I visually obviously can't confirm that. Okay.
Yeah. I have a similar issue. I feel like organizing and decluttering, it ties one to the next, ties in. So when I organize and I take the opportunity to kind of like really deep clean. So for example, my closet, it really gives me peace of mind. And I take that advantage in the wintertime, because I don't like leaving the house in the winter, in the cold. So I take advantage of those moments where I really deep clean my closet, color coordinate my clothes, because that's who I am. Weird person, I get it. And then I find myself having clothes that I haven't worn in over 8 months. And I'm like, why do I still have this? So that's when I find myself,
you're going to say 8 years.
No, and then, you know what I do? When I shop for new stuff, I kind of like repeat those clothes, and then I forget about my old clothes.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Duplicates.
I know. So yeah. I look at those old clothes that I haven't worn in like 8 months to a year, and I'm like, why do I still have these things? So that's when I take a step to even declutter, donate, and it gives me just a real, like, I just feel at peace. And I do these things like in the morning, so the rest of the day I feel like I did something today. Like I feel peaceful. Yeah. Yep. And then I don't know
now
if
I can laze around.
But after you clean something, you just keep looking at it. Yeah. Like you keep looking at it and you're like, yeah, I did that today. You feel so
that's
proud.
The reinforcement. and then you can enjoy your day in a different way. Frances, how would we assess, any idea that we've got a problem? Like we're sitting here saying, well, I wonder about this, or maybe does this mean, but is there ways that if you actually went and spoke to someone who kind of, this is kind of more of a negative of an issue?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so actually I wanted to just touch on briefly, we just talked about the physical clutter, but with physical objects in the house and how we want to look at things after we've gotten rid of it, just visually is very appealing. But there are other types of clutter as well, and that is emotional. Like, where are we placing our energy? And one of the things that people do is, that negative self-talk, like thinking that we're not good enough, we're not great at doing X, Y, and Z, and worry and all of that. So even though this is about physically decluttering, we do have to keep in mind there's also that emotional, worry, and that can impact us negatively. And that is something that is actually not even seen. So keep that in mind. And then the other type of clutter I just wanted to touch on is the mental clutter. So our minds can also feel mentally cluttered when we have too many things to do or too many things on the go. And so, we can kind of empty our minds a little bit by writing down lists, and delegating where we can. And we also control what we allow into our minds. So, if we're emptying our minds and saying, okay, here's a huge to-do list, don't go and fill it up with, flicking through your phone and scroll social media and scroll. You're kind of like emptying your brain and then just filling it in with more, social junk, I guess you could say, junk food. So, we can control our information overload. So be mindful and put boundaries there. So that is something you can do other than just the physical clutter. And now getting back to your question, Kelly, of whether you have a clutter problem, there is a self-test for something, called chronic disorganization. So if you answer yes to some or many of these, then that is a sign that there might be some hidden issue. So things like filling your storage areas to capacity. So we talked about, when you have that empty space or you have a bigger space, things just kind of accumulate. We have difficulty with parting with items, needing to rent out additional storage space. That is definitely a big clue. Beginning multiple projects that go unfinished, and also struggling constantly to find things. So those are some signs, not everything, but that that you might have some organized chaos happening, and that you might want to look into kind of organizing that and decluttering. That's an interesting concept, and you can kind of play around with that to see if that works for you. There's also something called doom piling. So doom is for didn't organize, only moved. So that's like moving things from one pile to another to deal with it later. So it's a good way to clear the space. If you have someone coming over, or just kind of move things out of the way, but it's just kind of out of sight, out of mind, and that clutter is just still there. It's just somewhere else. So I think the idea is you want to touch it and then do something with it. Don't just kind of move it around. Kind of like kids. I can just imagine kids moving things on their plate. They don't want to eat the vegetables. They're kind of moving it around, making it look like it's doing something, but it's not. Also having a place for things to go. So instead of just junking your items, you can give it a second life by donating the items or giving it away to friends and family to enjoy. And that way it's a little bit easier to kind of say that you're getting rid of something, but it's having a second life. And then once you decide that you don't want something, just get rid of it. Don't leave it there, because there's still that psychological impact until it's gone. And if you're still having trouble, you can always hire professional help, get a professional organizer or a friend. Set some time limits. So we're not thinking that, oh my goodness, I have to spend my whole weekend doing this. Set, short amounts of time so that you have that energy to focus, and then that there's a time limit, so you're not going to be doing it all day. And some other people have this one in and one out rule. So if you're acquiring a new item, then something else has to go. And so that you're kind of keeping that balance, so we're not accumulating more things and adding to the clutter in the house. So those are some of the tips that you can do to help with decluttering.
Fantastic.
I love that. I want to add one more tip to that. Get, somebody who doesn't care about your clothes to help you declutter. Not just clothes, sorry. Anything in your house. So that is my sister. When I need to declutter, I bring her along and we go over some stuff, and she's like, that's gotta go. You don't need that. You're not gonna wear that again. You're not gonna restyle that again. And if you lose weight, don't worry, you'll buy a new one. Because I have all of those excuses about, okay, I'll just lose weight and wear this again, or this style will come back. I've said it all. But get somebody that doesn't really care and will immediately throw those out for you.
And then get the person who walks around with the video camera filming the argument. No, yeah. I'm gonna keep that because it'll make good for a YouTube video.
It's a repeat.
I think it's so much easier though.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think it's so much easier to deal with someone else's stuff. It's like if you ask me to get rid of someone else's stuff, no problem.
Yeah, no problem.
Because you don't have that attachment. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Mm-hmm. Some would say,
this has been great.
That's right, just be brutal. Be insensitive about it. Get it out of here. Just don't destroy it or anything like that. Donate it.
Yeah. I'm a very sentimental person, so I get that. I get offended sometimes about those things, but sometimes you just need the push. You need the push. But it's been great. Thank you so much, Frances.
Thanks, guys.
That was Frances Wong giving us some tips on decluttering this month.
I remember years ago, my mother was over to help me do a spring cleaning, not in the middle of the winter, but it was a spring cleaning. And I remember her shock at some of the things that I had been given, particularly, the clothes, that stuff, years before, when I was 14, 15, that I still had. And my mother, what the heck you doing? You're 21, this will never fit you. And I remember giggling and laughing, but it was so true. And I'd asked myself, how come I had trouble letting go of it? And it was usually because it was stuff my parents' family had given me. And I thought, no, you can't just do that. I know for some people that's a problem, but I also know, as a big guy shoulder to shoulder, I love having clear pathways. And I lived in a very small bachelor apartment, and when I lived there years ago, when my mom was helping me with all that, I mean, I'm sure people said, this big guy careens around in there, and I've got to appreciate that kind of open movement, especially as a low vision, as a blind person. Want to welcome Kevin Shaw joining us here on the program as well. Kev, I'm sure you heard a little bit of that. Are you more of a clutter or less clutter person?
My home is neat and tidy. If you look at the shelves in my bedroom, they look like the store. Everything is folded, put away, everything has a place. My drawers are all organized. They've got little dividers in them. So I don't like clutter at all. And
you've always been like that, Kev? Like years you didn't learn it through frustration. You just, this is it. It's easier for me to find stuff.
Well, there was a time when I was like, well, I'm gonna keep everything just in case. And then I read that Marie Kondo book, and it took me 3 days to just go through everything, organize,
bang, bang,
and I was keeping old jazz drives and SCSI cables, and
oh my gosh,
I was like, why am I keeping these? These don't plug into anything I own. So why do I need like 16 Ethernet cables? So
it's how you think you're going to need it later, right? It's just like Nazreen saying, well, with the clothes and that kind of thing. The other thing is donate them to a theater. They'll love your stuff, your bell bottoms, for the next show they do that takes place in the late 70s. Nazreen, put up a poll for us yesterday. Mm-hmm. We were discussing the question I asked everyone about the sound cheap that we said your chick there, mug, makes. And you said on it, it says beep beep with a P sound.
Inside the mug it says beep beep. But you guys argued, there was a debate yesterday that no, it's cheap cheap. So we have to settle this debate. We asked you guys on Twitter. We need your help to settle this debate. What sound does a chick make? Kevin, first of all, before I give the results, what do you think?
I say peep peep.
Hey, he's on my side.
Wow.
Peep, peep.
Finally.
Wow, Kev.
Finally.
Wow. Okay. I say cheep cheep, which was brought the question because that's what in my head I've always heard cheep cheep. Anyone making the sound. And as I said on Twitter, and I relate to that sound because that's how people, that's the word people use to describe how careful I am spending money. Okay, Niz,
so
what did
Remya and
our
Kelly were like telling me, no, it's cheap, cheap. So anyway, the results were 75% said cheap, cheap, and 25% said other. Nobody said peep, peep, so I was surprised. And then I went on ChatGPT, and I had to ask this question because I'm just curious. So I asked what ChatGPT thinks what sound a chick makes, and the answer was a chick typically makes soft, high-pitched peeping or chirping sounds, often described as cheep cheep or peep peep. So both options were right. Boom.
Wow, talk about straddling the fence on that one. That's awesome, guys. That's really cool. But it is one of those things that it's funny when you hear something or somebody pronounces something a certain way and someone says, well, no, isn't that pronounced? I think there's some really great examples of when you hear things. And I think, Kevin, a couple of years back, we were discussing yesterday that there was something going around that everybody you listen to it, everybody has A or B that they're hearing, and it's just so crazy. Thanks, guys. That's really interesting when you have these kind of things like that. Thanks to everybody out there who participated out on Twitter, and you can of course find us on Instagram too, so do that. But remember, check out our podcast to catch up on the show, and visit our YouTube page. Subscribe to the YouTube page, subscribe to our podcast so you can listen to the show on demand. Give us a rating and review if you would when you check out the podcast. So let's talk about another debate, folks out there. This is one of the biggest ones in business and customer service. Is the customer always right? It's a phrase we've all heard for sure, but is it really true? Should businesses go above and beyond for every request? Or are there times that the customer is just plain wrong? To help us dig into this, we've got Kevin Shaw, the host of Mind Your Own Business, a show all about entrepreneurs navigating the highs and lows of running a business. More on that a little later. Kev, in your opinion, is the customer always right?
Well, let me throw it to you guys first. We'll go around the table here. Kelly, what do you think?
Kev, I come from the era where that was said. I used to believe the customer is always right, but I also believed Yeah, but there's a lot of time we'll push our luck and ask for the stars and have no right to do so when someone's trying to run a business, and we can become, as a customer, unreasonable. I think I'd heard enough arguments in eateries and stores to quantify that for myself.
I feel
Azreen,
like
what about
people
you?
take advantage of the phrase "the customer's always right," and customers go above and beyond, either being rude or taking advantage of free stuff, getting discounts, so they complain about anything. So I feel like they're rarely right.
Ooh,
just from my experience. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that I agree with you, Kelly. I think that phrase was true maybe a generation ago, but they weren't.
sure.
They were not counting on this generation of customers. With phones in their
like
pockets
even down
and-
to Kevin, and even down to the massive tipping thing that you tip regardless.
Oh my gosh.
You
Yo.
know, if you don't, wow.
I was in Starbucks on the weekend, and first of all, they've got touchscreen pay terminals. Shame on you, Starbucks.
Oh, good heavens.
Second of all, I was trying to go through with just a tap transaction, and I had a friend with me, and she's like, "Oh, they're asking for a tip." I'm like, "What for? You didn't even you're not the one handling my drink. You're not warming up my little scone or whatever it was that I ordered." I'm like, "No, I'm not giving you a tip," and so I don't tip for that reason. And as the customer, I'm right not to.
I agree with you. I agree. I feel like that's been a very annoying thing these days, that it's just it's very common, and a lot of places they do that. And I'm like, but
Yeah.
you didn't serve me. You didn't do anything. What am I tipping for exactly?
Yep. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I do like, though, the old mantra about it was tipping is a way that you can reflect your satisfaction with the service. And I would like to think that if I got poor service, bad enough, I would certainly express in some way my dissatisfaction, and that would also be followed up by a lesser tip. But if someone's serving me, I'm not interested in tipping the machine that took my order.
Do you know what TIPS
Yeah.
stands for, Kelly?
No.
I don't.
It's an acronym. It stands for to ensure prompt service.
No way.
That's
never
where
knew
that word comes from.
Wow, I like
Learned
that.
something new on Kelly and Company today.
Ooh, I love that. I never thought of that. Wow.
See, if there's no service, there's no tip. Period.
Right. And so this kind of frames this debate, right? Of is the customer always right? I want prompt service. This is what I want. I want it now. You've got to go above and beyond for me because I'm always right as the customer. And we've seen these cases where, Starbucks, for example, they said, can't use the bathroom unless you're a customer. And then they reversed that decision. And then people started using the Starbucks bathrooms for purposes other than just going to the bathroom. And Starbucks is like, no, we can't do this anymore. We're gonna reverse our policy on this.
It's been an issue. People have been abusive, and unfortunately, I mean, a bathroom has to be there. There's already too much of a shortage
Yeah.
of bathrooms and availability. But my thought is, you go in, you buy something, you have the right to use the bathroom. You don't, as a customer, which is who it's for, and the staff, you don't have a right to do that. But we have a different era where people often are in a situation where maybe they're on the street, and I think a person who comes in and is reasonable, the place gets to know the person and is going to be okay. But I understand when a place says, sorry, we cannot. It's not open to the public, especially when someone just comes in to use it.
Yeah. People take advantage and ruin it for others. That's what bugs me.
Yeah.
This is a clear example of people taking advantage of using the bathroom, and
right now there's a huge policy of resorting back to not doing some of the more generous things for accessibility, for helping people. A lot of businesses are saying, yeah, you know what, I'm not running my business to do that. And I think that's a bit of a hard line, and we are finding issues where some people have problems or need a situation where they need that place to go. Kev?
Well, I think regardless of what business you're in, especially if you're in something like retail, you're in the hospitality business, and you want to make sure that your space is as welcoming as possible within reason for your customers. And so if you need to, because we all understand that branding is everything and reputation is everything in business, especially now when everyone's got a phone in their pocket. I can go on Instagram Live and say, look, I'm here at this restaurant. They refuse to, do this for me. and start making a scene to your followers and getting things, resent out on your social networks and all your friends' social networks. Like, now we're talking, businesses have an incentive to treat customers properly. Now, the other side of this, the flip side of this, is customers who take advantage of that. And they say, well, I'm the customer, I'm always right, I've got my phone, the camera's rolling, I'm going to go in and make a scene and see if and see if I can get some, an extra 20 chicken McNuggets with my order of 6.
Wow. And there's so many challenges or people doing that. The other thing I worry about, Kev, you're using their space, whether you're a customer, whether you're off the street, and you mentioned before people using a bathroom for other things, and one of those things obviously is narcotics and leaving dangerous needles around. And as a blind person who would like to walk over, wash my hands, maybe I've got to find my sink by touching it, I don't want to find a needle. And unfortunately,
for sure.
I've heard of scary cases like that. And that's where places start saying, forget it, nobody but our staff gets to use it.
Yeah. And I think that there are a certain code of conduct, if you will, for customers who are interacting with businesses. And we talk a lot about businesses that will, put a code of conduct in for their staff, and, we're the staff, and here's how we're going to treat you, when you come in. But I think that, I think this is a trend that you're starting to see with a lot of, restaurants and hospitality places, is like, our customers, they have to obey a code of conduct as well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys have had the experience of calling into Revenue Canada or any of these, your cell phone company, and they say abusive behavior will not be tolerated against our call agents. We reserve the right to hang up on you, and blah blah blah. And so, setting that expectation of, just being a, being a mensch, as they say, being a decent human being. I think a lot of businesses are starting to take that tack and saying, hey, we want you to be decent people. And then we can start to acknowledge you know what, the customer is always right as long as you're behaving properly.
I love this. What do you do because sorry, Kelly.
I was just going to say, what do you do if they're not, Kev, especially a public circumstance?
Well, there's some restaurants. I know some restaurants down in the States. They've had to deal with unruly customers. I'm sure you guys have seen these viral videos that go online of younger people, younger patrons in these restaurants causing a scene. And now you've seen restaurants say, well, look, if you're under 18, you've got to have your parents with you, or we're only going to have you in here for 20 minutes. And this is one way that they are ensuring that their environment is welcoming to everyone, but also ensuring that they're getting a certain level of customer behavior from their patrons. And again, they want to say that, yeah, you know what, the customer is always right, and you can make demands and say, there's a fly in my food or something, you need to take this back. But at the same time, the expectation is that you're going to do so with a little bit of aplomb and dignity, as opposed to smashing the store and causing a scene for likes on social media.
Because that is a huge thing. Do you give in to everything, or do you have to, when there's a scene going on and other customers are being made to feel uncomfortable? How do you navigate around that?
Yeah, and that's a big thing too, is that businesses want to make sure that the reputation among the regular customers, the people who are behaving properly, is above board. And so you'll get situations where people who are not necessarily involved in the in the melee or the disruptions, well, I don't feel comfortable coming back here because they're basically allowing the customers to run roughshod over the staff and yell at them, and I don't feel comfortable in that kind of environment, so I'm going to take my business elsewhere.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that, know what, it's fair, but yeah, nobody deserves that type of disrespect. I mean, that's way over your pay grade. okay, to deal with all of that. And my mom works for a company that she deals with a lot of phone calls, so she tells me stories that a lot of people are very disrespectful, start swearing, start screaming, and you deal with that situation. How do you deal with that situation? What my mom does, she has the right to end that phone call, but first she gives them a warning. Okay, if you talk to me in a respectful way, I'll continue this phone call. If you continue to disrespect me, swear at me, and yell at me, I'm going to end this phone call. And the ball is in their court. What are they going to do? You know what I mean? So just giving them a warning, I think that's fair to say, because at the end of the day, I do feel like I agree. They do have the right to end that phone call if they're dealing with that disrespect.
You can't be abusive, but you do have a right. You should have that right, and some places have tried to get away from you having that right to complain because your voice is too loud, click, right? Even though you're just, I'm so frustrated, you guys, you're loud, click. And I think there's a level of, is a person frustrated, is a person being abusive to you? And I really, that banner of, hey, we have a right to do this now, for some businesses, unfortunately, is basically the excuse to saying, I'll terminate the call and make you go back and wait in the queue all over again. And in some cases, people deserve that. Other places, it's a control method to just make you so frustrated, you just won't call in. You just won't bother. Kev, we're running out of time, but something important's happening next week. 4th season of Mind Your Own Business kicks off 9:30 next Tuesday night, the 18th of March. I'd like to give a little plug here, and I'd like people to take a quick listen to the trailer and then let you have some words on it, please. Listen to this, folks.
Where do you think you need the most help right now with being handy?
Marketing, branding would be my biggest focuses right now.
Can you give us some idea of who the target customer is right now?
Initially, my thought was to target music schools and hospitals.
When it comes to marketing, it's important to be very clear about what it is and what you offer and what's distinct.
Running a business is tough. Join Kevin Shaw and his team of business experts as they help entrepreneurs from the disability community avoid the pitfalls, address the challenges, and take their companies to the next level. Mind Your Own Business. Season premiere, Tuesday, March 18th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on AMI TV.
A lot of confident, trusted voices you can hear there, Kev. Sounds like a great lineup. Anything particular this season that we should know?
Well, we're back for season 4, as you said, and we're just excited about this crop of entrepreneurs that we've had doing just really cool things. We've got our episode on Tuesday is an entrepreneur has basically created a way for somebody in a wheelchair to play the piano, which you might think, okay, I just need my hands for that, but there are also pedals underneath the piano that piano players use all the time. And this entrepreneur's created a way for somebody without the use of their legs to actually work those pedals on the piano. Nice. And so, really, really cool. And so we've got entrepreneurs from fashion and doing, kind of fashion meetups and that sort of thing, all the way to supplements, working in the health supplement space. So I'm just really, really proud of, just having this kind of wide variety of entrepreneurs. Now that we're in season 4, we've met 32 entrepreneurs, all from different businesses, all across Canada. A lot of West Coast entrepreneurs in this season. So really cool things happening there, and I think that it's going to be a really great season.
Congratulations on the 4th season alone. Real accomplishment, and always a wonderful way of checking it out and giving lots of people ideas, and of course support Mind Your Own Business this Tuesday on AMI TV, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. So do check it out. Enjoy it, ladies and gentlemen. Kev, we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you so much.
Kevin, of course, in to talk to us. And clearly, folks, the idea that the customer is always right isn't so black and white. While great customer service is key, businesses also have to protect their employees, their brand, and their bottom line. Nazreen Abdal-Majid, Kelly MacDonald here. We are the hosts of Kelly and Company with you. Appreciate you checking us out via YouTube, the podcast, or 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and repeated on AMI Audio. We're looking for members of the disability community to join our AMI research panel. Our research panel guides us with everything that we do here at AMI, including programming, media consumption, and accessibility. Participants are compensated for all long-form studies that they join us for. For more information and to join the research panel, go to ami.ca/panel. We would absolutely love to hear from you. You can email our show at kellyco.ami.ca and call us at 1-866-509-4545.
And animals don't judge how you feed them, whether you're in a wheelchair or with your cane. They just want your attention and, of course, some food. On the farm, effort speaks louder than ability. Executive Director of Windreach Farm, Ross St. Croix, shares with us how the sunshine of community and the growth of the farm are dependent on one another. Welcome, Ross. And can you tell us about the mission of the Windreach Farm?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Kelly and Nazreen. Windreach Farm strives to enrich the lives of persons of all ages with disabilities by providing opportunities to enjoy experiences in farming, nature, and outdoor recreation. And we want them to be able to share those experiences with their family and their friends.
Wonderful.
Man, that's tremendous. That really is. It's really great when you think of that mission. So talk a bit about, Ross, how the farm is so accessible. This is tremendous. And I'm a person who spent some time at a farm when I used to horseback ride and know what efforts they put in just so we could get around. But this is absolutely tremendous what you guys have to offer.
Yeah, it is. And it's like you said, Kelly, it's not an obvious thing. A lot of farms are not particularly accessible. So our founder, Sandy Mitchell, when he founded the farm back in 1989, he had cerebral palsy, and his motivation was to make sure that the farm was accessible first and a farm second. And so everything that was built here has pathways leading up to it. All the entrances are accessible. There's lots of room. We've tried to declutter the space, which when you think of a farm environment is not the first image that comes to mind. So it's really critical that we keep the place pretty tidy. We've made sure that we have raised gardening beds and opportunities around the farm where if we're asking folks to come and take part, that everybody can have that same experience, right? So if you're a wheelchair user, you're able to get into the animal pens, you're able to access the raised gardening beds. We make sure that we have staff trained in AODA compliance to make sure that we can help individuals regardless of their mobility needs. We allow service animals on the property to make sure that, if there's an anxiety concern, if you need a seeing eye dog, whatever it happens to be, that we're available to assist with that and comfortable with it. And in our riding stables, we make sure that we've got a mounted riding block for riders to be able to get on the horse regardless of where they would typically need that help.
Wow. I gotta say, when you talk about what feeling you get as a person coming onto a farm, whether it's for a visit or we'll talk about the work experience shortly, but it's so mentally pleasing, so rewarding, whether it's just the scent, the smells, the feel, the air around you, the temperature, cold, hot. There is something special, unlike it, and a lot of people I'm sure that you're getting that come for a visit, they're from the towns, the cities, and don't have that opportunity because maybe getting out to it may be a challenge. Am I correct?
Yeah, you are, Kelly. I mean, we say that everybody that comes to the farm is coming for a little bit of therapy, even the staff, even the volunteers, right? I mean, there's something to be said for leaving the sounds and the clutter and the stress behind you when you come up the driveway and just being able to experience, life slowing down a little bit, focusing on what's important, being more conscious of the air that you're breathing and the experiences that you're having. And we find because of that, we're able to keep things really simple here and really have meaningful impact on folks. It's not complicated. It's about making things more simple.
Amazing. Can you tell us about the Swing into Spring program? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Swing into Spring is our annual sheep shearing event. So, as you can imagine, through the winter months, we need to keep our sheep nice and woolly so that they can stay warm, but they are badly in need of a haircut by the time the end of April rolls around. And we have a group of volunteers here at the farm that will actually take the fleeces from our sheep and bring them through the full wool process so that they're able to use the wool and actually sell products to raise funds for the farm. So Swing into Spring is our open house day for folks of all abilities, families, community groups, whoever you are. Come out to the farm April 26th from 10 to 2. We do the sheep shearing demonstration. We have a very theatrical shearer that comes out, makes a real experience of it for everybody so they can learn and be entertained. There's baby animals here at that time. We do wagon rides, demonstrations of how the wool program works, stuff for the whole family. And for as many people as you can squeeze into your car, it's only $30.
Wow. Good heavens, Ross. People must love it. Can you talk about the Windsprout work experience?
I can, yeah. So, with the property that we have here, we've got 105 acres of property, and we offer a whole whack of programs here. But we know that one of the most valuable things that we can do with the farm property is use it to teach people the vocational skills that they'll be able to use to leverage that into meaningful employment. So at the farm, that means that we're inviting individuals with disabilities or who have otherwise been marginalized and experienced barriers to accessing employment. And we're training them on horticulture, we're training them on animal care, we're training them on property maintenance, customer service, some of the soft skills that come with just living and being around other people in a workplace, which frankly can be the most complicated part of the whole thing. And we're doing that through the Windsprout program. So this is a program that we're launching in just a few weeks now. April 7th is going to be the first session of the Windsprout program. We're going to go seasonally because the tasks and the things that you can learn around the farm change, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. So folks will register for each of those 4 seasons. They'll learn the tasks that need to get done around the farm, and then they'll be able to be connected with an employment agency and hopefully land a job somewhere in animal care, working in a barn, working with other types of small animals, working in customer service, or doing some property maintenance tasks. So we're really, really excited about it. Really think that it's going to be a huge hit and fill a big void here in the community.
That's really incredible. I gotta say, really rewarding, because so many people, Ross, that say, I would love to work with animals. And I think a lot of us with disabilities stop and say, yeah, how? What could I do? What would I need if I was working at a vet or if I was working on a farm? And here you are opening the doors for people to learn some of these things. What are some of your fondest memories of the farm? We're talking 35 years it's been around. A need was ascertained that a place like this had to be. It is, and you've been there and you've watched people go through the work. People come for visits and had to, work on organizations to be a part to make this all happen and fund it and be possible.
Yeah, Kelly, I mean, there's moments every week, but I'd say a few that stand out. When I first started here, we have a program where we go out into the community and reach individuals that can't otherwise come up here, whether they be groups or individuals. And we were working with a group of individuals who had found themselves seeking addiction rehabilitation. And, you think of all the different obvious groups that we work with and why the animal therapy would be such a good fit for them. And when it was first, proposed to me and they said, hey, we think this group could really benefit, I was thinking of some tough, hard-nosed men, and thinking like putting a chicken in a guy's lap, is that really going to have the same impact? And to go out to the session and see it and see grown men that have been through it and are actively identifying an issue and seeking help and just be reduced to tears with sort of the bond and the lack of judgment that they get from the animals, and just sort of reconnecting with some really basic activities and things in their life. It was quite something to behold. So that stood out for me for sure. Watching animals be born at the farm and watching our participants take part in that. Like you said, a lot of our individuals have been told as they've grown up, about all the things that they can't do and the things they don't have access to, and to see them be a part of that miracle of birth and life, and seeing them get their hands dirty and getting right in there and helping eat calves and lambs attached to their moms and that sort of stuff. That's just kind of salt of the earth stuff, and it really brings you right back to why you come into work every day.
That's awesome.
I love that. That's an amazing job. Like I think of dog therapy, and I really want to try that one day. That sounds amazing. But to try it at a farm with all different types of animals, that sounds pretty epic and peaceful. Thank you so much, Ross, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Come out to the farm if you haven't been here before. We'd love to have you. We got a program or a volunteer role just waiting for you.
Thanks, Ross.
Absolutely. Windreach Farm is a great example of an organization that started by someone with a disability who saw a gap in the system because of the barriers they were experiencing themselves. Now, 35 years later, it is obvious that programs like Windsprout are vital to the disability community and their families. If you want to attend Swing into Spring on April 26th for a fun-filled day at the farm, visit their website for more details at windreachfarm.org.
Incredible. What a place to go to work at. And I really like how Ross Nazreen brought us full circle about decluttering. We started talking about it, and what a place to go and declutter the mind and enjoy the fresh air.
Yeah.
We'll catch you tomorrow, Niz. We'll see you on our Thursday edition.
See ya.
On our next edition of Kelly & Company, art consultant Christine Malik highlights special offerings, folks, at live performances for people with disabilities that aren't the typical audio description or closed captioning. We'll get into those conversations when we kick off another edition, our next one, as a matter of fact, of Kelly & Company.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly & Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.